You dehumanize people, you treat them like rubbish, you keep stepping on them, you keep shooting them, you keep killing them, you keep raping them, you keep stealing their houses, you keep stealing their land. What are they going to do? Nothing? Is that what people expect? Like, resistance is born because people are desperate and there's no hope for them anymore. There's nothing they can do. And this is the only way that the world actually turns and has a look at them.
Guys, I'm here in the city covering the Free Palestine protest here.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
We had a lot of speakers today. I'm going to be interviewing a few people as well, just getting their experience as Palestinians living in Australia and asking them about their feelings about how the government in this country is looking at the situation.
You reached out to me because you saw one of my podcasts and I was talking about these issues. Why did you feel compelled to reach out to me and talk to me about what's happening?
Because I wanted our side to be seen as well, and I saw that it was very one-sided, and I just wanted to give our side. My family fled during the Al-Nakba in 1948 after the Deir Yassin massacre happened, and they became Palestinian refugees like millions of people around the world. So I'm just here to show solidarity with them, because I feel like every time I look at my little babies, all I see is Palestinian kids, and they've been dehumanized, and it feels like people could look at my kids like that and not see babies getting killed and just see us like animals or not even matter. Like, yeah, I don't know. I guess that's probably why the government doesn't really say much about our side, is because we're human animals and they're the only humans, and apparently we're supposed to accept that and get treated like that, and that's fine. And it's just not fair. It's not even, because we are human as well. You know, we bleed. Everyone bleeds the same colour. It's not fair. One child is not worth more than another child.
Do you think Australians looking at what happened on October 7th in the Israeli border towns, Australians looking at that and them reacting to what in our country we see as acts of terrorism,
Yep.
them reacting to that and saying that there is no moral equivalence there between the actions of a group like Hamas, who in this country are recognized as terrorists, and the actions of the Israeli military, the IDF, in responding in defense. See, we in Australia, we see that as being almost a justified response in self-defense. Many Australians are looking at both sides of this, and they're feeling sympathy for everyone that's involved, but a part of the moral and ethical values of this country align more with the Western values of Israel. And I think that's what's hard to break through for a lot of what I'm seeing happening. That message might not be getting cut across, you know? What you're telling me, people aren't seeing it in that exact same terms.
I don't follow, I'm not part of the Hamas thing or anything like that.
I want to clarify.
Christian Palestinian.
You're Christian Palestinian.
And, you know, they bombed a Christian church. The Greek Catholic Church, Greek Orthodox Church got bombed. They've bombed the UN schools. They've bombed the Baptist hospital as well. You know, I think it's disproportionate. Like, whatever Hamas did, right, and occupied people have the right to violent resistance. Call them a terrorist, but also call Israel a terrorist, because Israel has gone and killed, you know, over thousands and thousands of people. And since 2008, over 35,000 children have been either killed or injured by Israel. And why aren't they terrorists? You know, you've got one that's maybe killed, you know, a few hundred people called a fucking terrorist. And then you've got another group who have killed thousands of people over 75 years, and they're not terrorists. How are they not terrorists? They're fighting civilians that don't have an army. That's not fair.
It's not a fair fight when you look at it from that perspective. but the West doesn't see it that way. And I think that's what I'm trying to say. A lot of people are having a hard time understanding how the West sees these type of issues. They're looking at it at the point of view of shutting down terrorism from, they look at it as a justified means to wipe out a terrorist action. And they say by removing Hamas, by removing these type of terror elements, all the people there can have a bit more peace and safety and harmony. Do you think that will achieve peace, safety and harmony? Let's say the West goes in there, levels the place, gets rid of Hamas.
No. Because in the West Bank, all right, so Gaza's this tiny little strip in the corner that's surrounded by a concrete wall, no way in, no way out. And then the West Bank, right, they are not controlled by Hamas. And yet people there, little children, they fight with stones, they throw stones at tanks and they get shot in the head with a bullet. They can't blame Hamas because there's no Hamas there. They steal people's houses and land. They can't blame Hamas for that because those people aren't doing anything. They've tried peaceful resistance and this side's tried violent resistance. Both don't work. They don't work.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Are you Palestinian yourself?
Lebanese, but all Palestinians.
There's some tensions within the border of Lebanon and Israel as well. How's that making you feel?
A bit nervous because I've got family up there, so we'll see what's going to happen.
And what do you think about how Australia and the West is responding to what's happening?
Shame. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Shame, shame, Biden, shame! Shame, shame, Biden, shame! Stop playing Israel's game! Stop playing Israel's game!
I have one friend lost 13 of his members in one attack. Most of them, they were kids under the 15 years old to 3 years old and women. So it's really heartbreaking hearing these stories and seeing their faces, how they are trying to live with this news. It's really sad.
So you're here today with your family members?
Yes, I have my daughters, my niece and nephews, and yeah, they all wanted to come. I wanted to come by myself, but they wanted to join, so I thought you most welcome to come.
They're very young,
Yes.
and this might be the first time they're kind of exposed to a lot of this, what's happening. How are they reacting to a lot of this stuff?
They are feeling very, very sad, and they are young, but they are feeling that majority, they seen a lot of kids that has died on the media, and they are really, really feeling terrible about it. And they say to me, we want to join, we want to do something, we want to raise our voices themselves. And they're still kids. It's amazing. And the whole world still turning a blind eye around for it.
I'd like to say I'm just free Palestine.
The big problem here, I think, in Australia is the government. The government is being biased. They're not being fair with both sides, always towards one side, which is the oppressor, and that's terrible. And we need to raise our voices to do something about it and make more people wake up.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
I just want to get your thoughts on what you're seeing on the street right now.
Well, first of all, it's beautiful to see. Like, I'm of Palestinian background and heritage. Both my parents are Palestinian, and just to see this level of support is really heartwarming. At the same time, I feel a level of guilt as well, though. We have a voice here, but I wish there was more we could do. You know, it's actually hard to enjoy life at the moment, if I'm being really honest.
I don't like what's going on in Gaza and my country, which is Palestine, and it's not fair to keep silent. We have to speak up and say they have to stop.
We feel that it's one-sided and they disregard the human lives of the Palestinians. That's why we're here.
Do you think the Australian political landscape understands exactly what the people are feeling right now about this?
I think they do. They're not stupid. They're politicians. Politicians are smart people. They're just choosing to back the oppressor and the aggressor. And all the people here aren't silly. We know that. And they're not stupid either. This is about human rights, human dignity, That's what this is about.
But I remember seeing when it all kind of went down on October 7th, there were people who were happy and celebrating. There is this issue that we're getting in this, where we can look at Palestinian people and look at them as supporters of Hamas. Is it important that Palestinian people differentiate that? Is that something that needs to happen before everyone gets on board?
This has been going on for decades, 70 odd years. Hamas has not been in existence for that long.
So, you can say this is a war between the Israeli army and Hamas, but it's not. It's the Israeli people and the Palestinian people. The Hamas thing is just on the news. Let's say we can behead 40 babies. Let's make them look like animals so we can get a free card to kill as many civilians in Palestine as possible, especially in the Gaza and the West Bank. You have settlers there with automatic weapons that actually there was on an article today. 3 Palestinians were stripped, pissed on, and beaten up in the West Bank. So that narrative is just a green card to attack the Palestinian people. So I think we have to understand that too. This isn't just Hamas, this is the Palestinian people. So I'm sick of hearing that, it's a war between Hamas and Israel. It's not. It's a war between Israel and the human rights of the Palestinian people.
There's a perception that the Jewish community and the Palestinian community can't live with each other.
They were. I've got photos. I've got photos of Jewish, Muslim and Catholic people all living together. Because this was before the idea of Zionism came into play. Then Zionism came into play. The government was ran by a bunch of right-wing fascist people, and you can see that on the internet. It's very racist actually. And then everything went downhill from there. Then before that, everyone was living peacefully. It was before this idea of Zionism came. So we just hope we can go back to that and we can all live peacefully together.
Israel took all the land in the middle and then left the West Bank. They've divided the same people in 2 sections of their own land. The people in the West Bank have got about 500 checkpoints that they have to get through just to get from one place to the other. If you want to go to church, you've got to go to a checkpoint. If you want to go to mosque, you've got to go through I don't know how many checkpoints, and they don't even let you through most of the time. And then you've got cameras pointed into your house, into your backyard. Then you've got settlers that are allowed to come, knock at your door, say, I live here now, and put you on the street. There is no justice for these people. There is no life for these people. They are living under military rule and just these barbaric conditions. And Israel needs to take itself out of all of the Palestinian territories, go back to, I don't know, some other border, maybe 1967 or some other border, or at least give them back the West Bank and allow them freedom of movement, because they don't have freedom of movement. Allow them to be able to even govern themselves. They're not allowed to have an airport. They're not allowed to have ports. They're not allowed in and out of the country unless Israel gives them the tick. They're not allowed in and out within their own region unless Israel gives them the tick. It's an apartheid state. It's inhumane, it's barbaric, and I do not understand how we are in 2023 still discussing this, and it's happening in front of everyone's eyes, live on TikTok and other social media platforms, and still, I don't know how people can still not step in and do something. It's just the most bizarre, mind-blowing, stupid thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And then you've got people fighting about, it's this person's fault and this person's fault. I'm sorry, but these people aren't allowed to wipe their own ass without Israel saying they're allowed to wipe their own ass.
Yeah. I think you identified an issue here with there's people and then there's leadership. There's the people who are caught in between all of this, and then there's people who make decisions. And for a long time, as you've identified, they've been unable to come to these solutions, and they've gone back and forth about 2-state solution, and they've gone back and forth about where the border should be, and there's been multiple conflicts. This is not the first time that this has happened in that part of the world. Everyone is aware of what's been happening there for a very long time. At the core level, do you think, how we in the West, we hold our governments responsible when they do something wrong? We say this person is no good for us. This particular group is not representing our interests. Now, Hamas is recognized as a terrorist organization in most parts of the world. I think there's only few places where they have relations where they are treated like a normal entity, for instance. Because I've seen the leaders of Hamas speaking on television and saying that they're aware of what they're doing, and they're saying it's not terrorists, it's a resistance. Okay, I'm saying it from their perspective. So they're going out there and they've done this, and now this is the consequences of what they have done. Do you think ultimately, as much as the Israeli government also may be responsible for everything that's happening and everything you've described, that groups within the Palestinian territories and Hamas should bear some of this responsibility and look to de-escalate?
I don't know how many people are coming here, maybe 10,000 or whatever thousand. Imagine 10,000 people here, right? Someone comes along and puts up a massive brick wall or concrete wall around all of us and says, you live in there. And you want everyone to just sit on their hands and do nothing? You know, every now and then you get bullets thrown, you know, from their little military, whatever they're called. They shoot into Gaza at the children. And you want people to just sit there and do nothing, not resist, not complain, and you want them to be peaceful. They created this. They created this. You dehumanize people, you treat them like rubbish, you keep stepping on them, you keep shooting them, you keep killing them, you keep raping them, you keep stealing their houses, you keep stealing their land. What are they going to do? Nothing? Is that what people expect? Like, resistance is born because people are desperate and there's no hope for them anymore. There's nothing they can do. And this is the only way that the world actually turns and has a look at them. Because you know what? No one would be talking about Gaza. No one would be talking about the West Bank or the Palestinians if Hamas didn't do what they did. They would continue to be butchered and treated like garbage, and the world would just blindly keep going on as it always has. So I think this is a cry for help, and it's horrific that whatever they did is horrific and horrible, and it's very sad. And it's very sad that that's the only way that the Western world or any of the world actually pays any attention to them.
Larissa, I want to thank you for very respectfully talking to me about this. And some very, traumatic things that we're discussing. And it's not easy to talk about conflict. It's not easy to talk about things like war. And it's not easy to talk about when, in Australia, I feel like I have Palestinian friends, I have, Muslim friends, Arabic friends, I have Jewish friends, I have friends from everywhere, and we all live together in peace and harmony, and we coexist.
And that's what we used to do before 1948.
Yes.
We coexisted.
Yeah.
We had Jewish, Christian, Muslim, all living together. We all prayed next to each other. We were the same people.
So you're a Christian Palestinian?
Yes. I'm Melkite Catholic.
Catholic.
So we date back to the 1st century AD, so the time of the apostles.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of us in the world.
So that's what I was going to say to you. Like, isn't it crazy seeing how we all get along here and we have this life here, but for some reason, people back home or people in Palestine, they struggle with this and they struggle with having this type of unity. Is there something better that we can do as Australians to kind of bring some unity to this? Because I know, a lot of the Palestinian community, of course, rightly, they're struggling right now with the scenes that they're seeing. It's horrific, it's horrendous, and you feel like you're not being listened to by the West. Yeah. I get it. I understand the West, and I understand that, when you turn the television on, they're talking about the deaths of Palestinian children as collateral damage. And I know to a Palestinian or someone from that region, it is not collateral damage when they see their babies and stuff being pulled out of rubble. I get that, but the West specifically talks about it in this way. So do you think there's a way that, we can kind of bring everyone on board and together to ensure that these kind of things don't prolong, that they stop shorter, they don't go to the distance that we're going to see? Because I'm really worried from what I'm seeing in terms of, following this, the geopolitical side of this, World War III, whatever you want to say, but not even about the world, but about what's happening there right now. Because I feel the West, countries like Australia, England, the US, have given their consent for Israel to do whatever they need to do to wipe out Hamas. And in the midst of all of that, the civilian we haven't seen the suffering that's to come, is what I'm saying. What we're seeing now is just a It's tragic and horrific, but it's just the beginning of it. I think it's going to get far worse. So do you think that there's a role for us to kind of come together with the Jewish community, for instance, with people here, to actually push for something which is more representative of who we are and our values in Australia? Because I think that's what's missing, because people are being divided. I hate to say this, but I see it. I see it in my comments. I see it everywhere when I talk to people about this issue. It becomes very tribalistic. But I feel like in Australia we have this position where we can see from a distance something different, something better. Do you think it's possible for us here?
I think that it needs to be recognised as a humanitarian crisis. Last week we were marching, we had Jewish people marching with us. There is Jewish people all over the world, in almost every country, doing the same thing, saying not in my name. Why are they protesting against their own if their own aren't doing anything wrong? You don't see Palestinians protesting against the Palestinians, but you see all these Jewish and Israelis in their own country as well protesting against this genocide and ethnic cleansing, and that's what they're calling it too. So until everybody can recognise that that is what it is and stop sugarcoating it, there is going to be no dialogue between any sides. There is going to continue to be bloodshed. There's going to continue to be conflict. There's never going to be peace. And this is just going to escalate, and it's going to spill over into other countries surrounding Israel and Palestinian people. And it's going to spill over into our country because America is going to get on the side of Israel. Australian troops are going to be sent wherever American troops are. So it does affect this country. It affects the whole world.
Thank you, Larissa. I really appreciate your insight and your time, and really grateful that you spoke to me, and really grateful that you reached out to me, because having this conversation isn't going to change much, but I truly believe in bringing the temperature down in what we're seeing in the dialogue and discourse here, because there is a lot of things that are being said and opinions being shared which I don't think necessarily are helpful for the community here. So I think it's great to be able to hear directly from someone like yourself who's directly impacted by this, so Australians can understand what you're going through, because you're one of us. We're Australian. We're in this together.
We're human.
We're human more than anything.
We're
human.
all human.
Yeah.
Australian, any country, we're human. Palestinians are human too. Israelis are human too. We are all human. That's where division begins, is when you decide one side or one people is not human or is less human than the other. But thank you very much for having me. I appreciate that you were open to having the other side of the discussion. And thank you.
Thank you, Larissa. Thanks, guys. Thank you for joining in.